Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a belief that sits right at the very heart of the Latter-day Saint faith. This idea that family isn't just for this life, but can actually last forever. It's a concept that really shapes their entire worldview and why we're all here.
It all really starts with a question that I think everybody considers at some point. What happens to our most important relationships when we die? Are those bonds we forge with our family just temporary, meant to just end when this life is over?
Well, the Latter-day Saint answer to that is a resounding no. Their entire theology is built on the conviction that family relationships can be perpetuated beyond the grave. And let me tell you, that single idea, it changes everything. Now, this idea of an eternal family isn't just a comforting thought. It's a central piece of a much, much bigger puzzle that they call the plan of happiness. Think of it as a theological blueprint for our entire journey, from before we were born to long, long after we die.
So what's the end goal of this big plan? It's actually more than just living forever. It's a state they call exaltation, which, in a nutshell, means becoming more like God and returning to live in His presence. But, and here is the absolutely crucial part, it means doing so as families.
The theology that holds all this up is often explained using three main pillars. First, you have the creation, which gave families a place to live and to learn. Second, there's the fall of Adam and Eve, which introduced mortality and created the conditions for families to grow. And third, the atonement of Jesus Christ, which provides the power to overcome death and allows families to be sealed together forever.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. According to this doctrine, our story doesn't actually begin at birth. Nope, it starts way before that, in what's known as a premortal life, where everybody lived with God as spirits.
And this is a really core piece of their theology. Every single person on earth is considered a beloved spirit son or daughter of heavenly parents. This belief gives everyone a divine identity, way before they're ever born into their mortal families.
And woven right into that premortal identity is the concept of gender. In this doctrine, gender isn't seen as just a social construct. It's viewed as an essential, eternal part of an individual's identity and their purpose, one that stretches from that past life through this one and into the future. So that premortal context really sets the stage for our life here on Earth, which is seen as this super critical time for growth and making choices. And to help guide people through this experience, church leaders issued a really foundational document all about the family.
That document is called The Family, A Proclamation to the World. When it was released back in 1995, it wasn't presented as some brand new doctrine. Instead, it was framed as a reaffirmation of long-held beliefs about marriage, gender, and family, especially in a world where those ideas were being challenged.
So what does it actually say?
Well, it makes several really key declarations. The central message is that marriage between a man and a woman is ordained of God, and it's the foundational unit for creating these eternal families. It also lays out distinct yet complementary responsibilities for fathers and mothers, and it stresses that they are supposed to be equal partners in the whole endeavor.
Okay, so how is a person supposed to live up to all these ideals? Well, the doctrine really points to a crucial balance between two guiding principles: God's limitless love on one hand and His unchanging laws on the other. So on one side, you have God's love, which is taught as being infinite, perfect, and totally unconditional for every single person. And then, on the other side, you have His laws, which are presented as these firm, protective guides that lead to blessings. The key idea here is that these two things aren't in conflict. They're actually designed to work together. And that's why, from their perspective, teaching these laws, even the ones that are tough or unpopular, is framed as an act of love. As the current church president, Russell M. Nelson, put it, the whole goal is to proclaim truth because of a deep care for all people, with the hope of guiding them toward the greatest happiness possible.
Now, a central part of living God's law involves making and keeping what they call covenants. You can think of these as sacred two-way promises between a person and God. Things like baptism or a temple marriage are considered ordinances where these covenants are made, and they're taught to be absolutely essential steps on that path back to God.
Now, as you can probably imagine, in our modern world, church leaders teach that this whole doctrine of the family is facing some pretty significant challenges. So there's a really strong emphasis on the need to understand it and be able to defend it.
The sources we're looking at identify several trends that are perceived as threats to this doctrine. We're talking about things like social shifts, like declining marriage rates, evolving legal definitions of family, and also powerful cultural messages in the media that are often seen as undermining this particular model of the family.
So because of these challenges, there's a real call for members to do more than just passively believe. The idea is that they need to actively understand and live by these principles. A past church president, Spencer W. Kimball, really captured this urgency, saying that a time would come when only those who believe deeply and actively will be able to preserve their families.
And all of this brings us to one final core question. If you truly view family not as just a temporary, earthly arrangement, but as a potentially eternal one, how does that change everything? How does it alter the meaning of family, the importance you place on it, and the choices you make every day? That fundamental shift in perspective, that right there, is the very heart of this doctrine.